Paula Reed is at the White House. So, Paula, former FBI Director James Comey spent a significant portion of that interview criticizing the president personally, not just the things that he did, but the person that he is. Comey is still an important part of an ongoing investigation, the Mueller investigation. I'm wondering if this will affect his credibility moving forward.
Well, let's talk about the Mueller investigation and his credibility there. He is one of the witnesses in the investigation into possible obstruction of justice. Investigators are also using his memos that he drafted immediately after conversations with the president. Just because he's taking sort of petty shots at the president, that doesn't undermine his credibility in the context of the criminal investigation. But in the court of public opinion, I think for a lot of people, the fact that Comey took time and took pages in his book to attack the president's skin color, the size of his hands, his height, his marriage, a lot of people may see that as perhaps bolstering the president's claim that there are a lot of people in federal law enforcement who are out to get him, that there is a general disdain among the elite here in Washington.
So, meanwhile, last night, President Trump's legal team filed a letter asking a federal judge to stop the review of materials seized from his personal attorney, Michael Cohen. Give me the argument on both sides. I mean, he is the president's personal attorney, so I suppose a portion of attorney-client privilege is in there. But what's the argument on both sides?
Well, you hit it right there. It's a portion. Not all of your communications between a lawyer and a client are going to be privileged. Only communications that have to deal with seeking or receiving legal advice. So any other communications you have with your lawyer, those can be seized by investigators, and certainly any evidence that you were discussing a possible future crime. So the two sides here is, first, the Justice Department is arguing that Cohen really doesn't act as a lawyer. He acts as a fixer, and that their investigation has nothing to do with his work as an attorney. And they're willing to go through the usual channels where an independent assessor looks at all of the evidence that's been gathered and takes out anything that's privileged and gives the rest over to investigators. That's the process that they're in court today to discuss. But then yesterday, the president's attorneys filed on his behalf saying, wait a second, we don't want this process. We want it to stop right now, and everything should be handed over to the president for him to review. But to be clear, Anne-Marie, that's not usually the way these things work. While the president is the one who technically holds the privilege, he is not the one who gets to assess what is and is not handed over to the FBI.
Very interesting. Michael Cohen is expected in court today. He wasn't at Friday's hearing, but he's expected to be there today. And this is all in connection to the FBI raid. Also going to be there, porn star Stormy Daniels is expected to show up. So this is sort of like a two-parter. What's happening today? And also, is there a particular reason why Stormy Daniels would be there other than just to add to sort of the circus environment that's taking place right now?
Well, a little bit of it is political theater, but remember, her non-disclosure that she signed with Michael Cohen, that is actually part of the ongoing federal investigation. Some of the evidence that was seized has to do with that agreement, as well as other agreements that Michael Cohen negotiated on behalf of the president about alleged affairs. So she does have some role in the case, but let's be clear, she has no reason to be in court today other than political theater. She, of course, has an ongoing federal lawsuit against Mr. Cohen and the president, but that's being handled in California, and that's about her non-disclosure agreement, the fact that she wants to be released from that. But absolutely, her presence there today will certainly add some extra drama and some fireworks to what is really actually a procedural hearing to discuss this issue of privileged information and all the stuff that was seized in the raids last week.
I suppose when it comes to this case, there are no minor hearings. Everything is sort of blown up as large as it can be. I wonder if she'll make herself available to the press. We'll see.
I have no doubt.
Paula Reed, thank you so much. Well, the Kremlin